Okay, hello, welcome. Um, Brief introduction. I am a Japanese to English technical translator, and why that's relevant is just so you know, like, where my knowledge base and skill set come from, Um, I'm pretty good. Half my job, I would say, is understanding and research, and both of those I think are probably skills that should be applied in a commentary way. It makes sense. And I've been streaming for a while, so I figured I should make more of this kind of commentary. And the past couple videos have gone well, I think. I'm not too happy with the last one. I was a little too, I don't know, a little too mean, I think. So this time I'm gonna try to be more nice. We're gonna watch a video. The goal of this, my kind of commentary here and analysis, is understanding the what I call the nameless cult, which would be what people would call SJWs, wokes, leftists, etc. I'm not gonna call them leftists too much anymore. Political wise, I'm apolitical. Used to be like kind of punk, like anarchist kid, and then which was left leaning, I suppose. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't think any of that's real. We'll get into that in another video, not this one. I'm trying to do a couple videos in a row today. I can have a couple of videos this week because I didn't do one last week, so I feel bad about that. Enough catching up though. We're gonna watch this video here and analyze it and talk about it. We have Peter Boghossian. I don't know what I'm saying. Who knows? But how do you spell it if you want to look it up? His YouTube channel just is his name, Peter Boghossian, which is Bog Hoss Ian, or Boghossian. Just look that up. Just type that into YouTube, and you'll find him. You should though. You should check him out. He was part of the what do you call it? The Grievance Studies Affair. Yeah, the Grievance Studies Affair. There was three of them: Boghossian, Lindsay, and Pluckrose, I think was the lady's last name. I sure hope so. Anyways, they all submitted fake papers like about into like the grievance sciences, the ones built around grievances. Um, they made funny ones like about dog parks and rape culture and stuff like that. Anyway, let's watch this. So here's the more pretext real quick though. He is I guess they had a Q&A at Brown's University scheduled, and that was canceled because of course it is. And so instead they just went on the street and tried to talk to people nearby, or like all in the college, right? Like you didn't see the student center or something behind there. So it's probably like at the front of the college, which should be, a place you can ask to talk to people. But that's what this is. And there's more videos of this if you want to check it out. So go ahead and if you like it and want to check it out, check out the other ones.
What would it take for you to move, not all the way over there, just one line, just one line?
I guess if they told me how many genders specifically there were.
Oh yeah. The thought experiment he's running is that there's two genders, right? And trying to just get people to talk about that. And like what would convince you that there's more genders kind of thing. That's what they're talking about right now from our context.
I can't think of anything that would change my opinion, I guess. But
you got some friends.
Oh, you're giving me the finger? Hi. I'm standing in front of the social work building. I'm
harming. You're harming individuals. What does that mean? We'll get into that later, I think. We'll get into that a little bit later, because I think these people... I saw a clip before I watched this video on Twitter. There was just like a minute something that was like edited, and it had him talking to some of those people that are up there now. So we shouldn't get too into that right now. It's later on.
harming individuals by asking that question. Well, you want to come down and have a conversation about it? Why you want to come down and have a conversation?
Now that, real quick though, I do want to talk about that. How do you not get that? Aren't you guys tired of people doing that nowadays? Like, Just like thinking the reason you disagree isn't because there's some real reason you disagree. It's just because you're dumb and you don't get what they get. They're so smart. I think collectively we can all say we're tired of that. Guys, people that do that, please stop doing that. Let's all stop. Let's try to stop doing it ourselves. Like stop thinking we're so smart, you know. We're probably not. None of us are probably all that smart at the end of the day. You know, like the sum of all we know is like, you know, rounds down to zero, right? That's somebody said that.
Conversation.
Like no matter how, like you can be an expert and still, out of all human knowledge, out of all human possible knowledge, everything you know rounds down to zero. So it's all, we should always be a little humble about that instead of just talking down to people. But you know, I'm not saying don't evaluate the knowledge level of people on a topic. Do that, you know, definitely do that.
Oh. Okay, so what would it take for you to move to the strongly agree?
In this man's class, after a long, controversial 10 weeks of lectures, in this giant auditorium on the final day, he posed a question to the students. He says, if anybody has disagreed with anything I've said over the last 10 weeks, come down and sit in this chair in a spotlight in the middle of the auditorium. Here's a platform. Tell me to my face. Which I'm glad I was the only one who walked down and you gave me an A.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm so curious about what's happening.
Here's the people from the thing, I think. I like how people come out like they have like this authority to see like, what are you doing here? Can you leave forever, please? I don't like you. You look gross. Goodbye.
Sitting out here.
You look gross. I don't really like your look. I mean, obviously I disagree with you, and that's really why I want you gone, but I'm gonna act like you're like hoodlums, you know, just causing trouble.
Oh, it's a critical thinking game where we take a look at claims and you
Okay.
step on a line you want to play.
Well,
You want to watch the game
Oh, okay, so that's how they're doing it. Okay.
played?
we were watching from up there actually because we happened to see the sign from up in the School of Social Work, which is on the 6th floor, and some of our trans students saw the statement. There are only two genders.
They saw, some of our trans students saw the sign.
Thanks for coming down to talk.
It was pretty.
Now notice she thinks that's already explaining it, right? That's already covered the whole thing. It's because of like, okay, there's this fundamental training that they do to the cult, to people in the cult. There's like one kind of goal about it. They call it, like, you might know it as critical consciousness. What they're really training you to do is, you can also look into this if you look into the microaggressions. Now, I don't want to get too into this right now, but I guess I will. Let's just bust it open. I'll explain microaggressions real quick, and then you'll have the knowledge, if you didn't have it already, about the way they're going to approach this, and you'll understand them a bit better and not think they're crazy. Because they're not really crazy. They're trained in a specific way. Okay, here's how it works. So this is all from the study of microaggressions, which have now gone out into psychology. You know, they're a bit like a basic standard of psychology now. You have like the APA talking about microaggressions as if they're real. You have a lot of real people talking about them. There's not actually any good science backing them up, right? There's not actually much good data. In fact, that it's mostly, you know, bunk. But so here's what it is. So you have to. This is also how they need to train you. So microaggression is, here's how you look for a microaggression, and also how you measure harm. You look for harm and measure harm. These are the models, like the explicit models that go on in their head. You may or may not have some of these in your own head, you know, because everybody's been attempted to be trained this way. Okay. So first you look at what was said, right? Let's say the statement, and you go, it's usually a gut reaction, but it boils down to, you go, okay, could anybody be hurt reading this? Could anybody be hurt reading this? Could anybody on the planet be hurt reading this? Right? Like, you wonder why they get so offended for other people. This is how the mindset works. Could anybody? And then they can imagine someone, right? They go, okay, there's a trans person, this would annoy. There's a gay person, this would annoy. There's a blah, blah, blah. There's a toaster that would get really pissed off about this. So then they go, what's the worst possible thing that person that saw that could do? Is it, you know, get rid of themselves? Is it hurt someone? Is it, what is it? Now, whatever you come up with there at that step, you now ascribe that, let's put that off to the side as possible harm, hypothetical harm, whatever you want to think about harm. Let's just put that whole idea off to the side, okay? Just hold that on the side. That is the harm in a way. So now why do you get to justify that hypothetical? Why do you get to turn that into a real thing? Well, then you go, okay, so I know this now. I know that harm that statement could cause, and I know that, and everybody should know that, because this is morally right? So everybody should know this. And the fact that someone doesn't know this means, well, they probably do know it. And if they don't know it, they should be doing the work instead of talking. They should be doing the work. They should shut up and do the work first, so they're ready to talk, because right now they're not ready to talk. And that's what you should do first, right? And then they're like, well, what about crap, I forgot my line of thought there. Microaggressions, yada yada. I was explaining microaggressions. The harm, how to turn it real. Got it. Okay. So what they do is they think about the worst possible one, and then they say you should have known already. You should know better, do better. You should know better, do better. That's the step. That's the step where they turn it from hypothetical to now real harm. Why? Why did they get to put that agency on you instead of the other way around? Well, because you should have known better. Because if the only thing we can assume is that and that's why they think just telling you should make you change your mind, right? Because they're like, well, now I've informed them of this. So now the only way they could possibly choose to still do that, to still make that statement, to still stand by that statement, is if they're actually a racist, a sexist, homophobic, transphobic. That's the only way they would do it, if I've told them and they still choose to do it. That's the whole reasoning right there. They put all the agency on you now in your statement, and they've now acted like the worst possible thing could happen, and you know it could happen, and you're still choosing to say it. You're still choosing to say it, knowing it could get somebody to get rid of themselves, knowing somebody could go out and hurt someone hearing this. You know that, and you're not doing anything about it. Instead, you're just saying it. You get it? Right there? It's very important we understand that. That's how they're trained. That's the microaggression kind of, it comes from the idea of microaggressions, but so there's two other key words that you need to know there. The impact. The impact is actually, when I called earlier the hypothetical harm, actually that's the impact, is what they refer to that as. The impact. So we no longer care about, this is the whole reason, if you look at the way they want to approach the law, everything, they look at impact and they don't look at intent at all. In fact, they, like many people explicitly say, intent does not matter, only impact does, because impact is real. Intent is like hypothetical. It's just what you wanted to do. But we've built our legal system on intent for a very good reason, right? Like, it breaks down if you don't consider intent. If you don't consider intent, you're never going to be fair to anyone. You're going to be, you're not going to be, you're ignoring something very important. Anyways, they totally don't get out of intent. They get to throw that out of the water. That's why it never matters. That's why I don't think that way. And they just measure impact and harm. Impact, the definition of that is the actual reaction that your words cause in the world. That's impact. And again, they get to assume that it's maximum impact, basically, because it could possibly happen, and so they need to stop it before it happens. And then you have harm, which is the actual harm that the people are experiencing. Again, it's short for psychological harm, but they've edited that part out, right? They don't say that part because they want to blur the line. They want you to consider it just like physical harm, so then they have a right to do physical violence. That's the reason, that's the justification for the physical violence and how this mean the nameless cult is to you. It's right there. That's why. Because you're saying things that they think are evil, and they're telling you, hey, that's evil, and you're still choosing to do it, which once you do that, bam, you're full Satan. You're full Satan mode. Now let's watch more of this. But I just wanted to give you guys the framework there to understand how these people think and why they think the way they do. So here we go.
Activating and upsetting, not knowing the context. We thought it was sort of a statement that was being made, but not a thought exercise necessarily.
Would you like to see how the game is played?
No.
No. I think we understand
Is it something that
Yeah.
should be?
I think we understand that. Listen to the attitude in their voice. Now, another point I want to make to these series of videos is that we're going to be doing for who knows how long, is that that I don't think I think a lot of these people now they're not. I know we like to think they're crazy. They're not really crazy, but they are delusional, and they do think they are really arrogant. And they are really arrogant, like hubristically so, you know what I mean? That's definitely something you'll notice. Now, try not to judge them for that too much though, because I don't know, it's a very like gross trait, and it's really easy to like hate people for that. But I find myself like having to check myself, like it's not that horrible like of a thing, really, you know.
Game?
It's messed up, but you
An
know.
exercise? You want to use you want to use defund the police as one?
Well, just thinking about what it looks like.
Yeah.
What does it look like
To
to
the
see
whole
like
community.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white men with a sign that says there's only 2 genders?
5 white men.
You could have been like the Westboro Baptist Church for all.
What is white? Why did you identify us on the basis of our race?
Well, are you the best people to be hosting that?
It's really good for him to question this part, because it does happen a lot, right? The cultists will often address you by your race and your sex and your sexuality. They'll address you as such without even you saying anything. And even if you do say something, they'll definitely address those things.
That dialogue about.
No, but you.
Be representative of that community.
Okay, but I asked you a question. Why did you identify me and these people on the basis of their
Back to
race?
what it looks like, right? Kind of like that.
Exactly what it looks like, huh? Like, think about the things they're saying, right? And think about other time periods in our history when people thought similarly to him. Also think about places in maybe Germany where people thought similarly to him, you know? And they okay, just think about that.
Triggering aspect of it all.
So you think that it's morally acceptable to identify people on the basis of their race?
That's a good question. Is it morally acceptable to identify people based on their race? I'd say no, right? What do you guys say? I say no. Like, just unless you're trying to describe them to the police, you know, and even then, like you're giving a description of what they look like. You're not necessarily, I mean, you know, right? It's not like you're saying anything about, like, you're not saying it was a, you know.
It's not a moral question. It's a matter of like.
Well, everything's a moral question, no? Because morals dictate all of your conduct. Period. Right? Like our laws are meant to reflect our morals as a society. Of course they are, right? Like, why else? Like, what else would define them?
The fact
It's
that
just
those
about
identities
power
already
and privilege.
exist.
Yeah, and identity and representation, right? So if you had a bunch of queer folks out here asking those kinds of questions, and there was
Well, how do you know we're not queer?
that's true. I don't know, but there's not sort of a representative, holistic, inclusive feeling, especially from up on.
You guys know all those words, right? Holistic, inclusive, all those things are cult words. We don't have time to get in every one, right? Holistic means you include the antithesis, and you know, blah blah blah.
On how we're looking
Dialectic.
down and we see this statement being made, we're curious about it. We're also just worried about the harm being done to passersby.
What is
See
the
that
harm?
statement. So there are people.
Now, see, she says the harm being done, as if it's actively being done, even though, you know, it's just hypothetical. You know, to us normal people, it's just hypothetical. But to the cultists, it's being done because it could be done. Somebody could be crying somewhere. It is. They are crying.
The harm?
People who went home because it was so
Yeah.
triggering and
We had some
activating.
students
So I
had
think
to leave.
the end result is
You know you're on film, right?
that is totally fine.
Okay.
There are real people who are really hurt by the statement. So I think
What were
it's
they
important
hurt
to
about?
Question that because that's not how they identify, and so it seems like a real
But here's the thing: you can't worry about everyone you offend, right? It's just not realistic. It's just not realistic. You can't not have certain discussions because some people are too much of a baby. Because somebody's going to be a baby about everything. What they're describing is babies, right? And important, if you are a baby, the best way to work on that is to get thicker skin and get, not get babied. If you baby a baby, they stay a baby for indefinitely. And I'm not saying you have to pick on a baby, but you don't go easy. You don't like baby the baby is all. You give them the normal adult treatment. No different than anybody else. And if they act, they act like a baby, then you give them shit about it. Because we don't, adults shouldn't be putting up with babies like this. Like babies like, oh, I went home. That's your problem. No, that's your problem. Why did you go home? Because you got offended by a phrase? I'm sorry, you're fired or whatever. You're out. Goodbye. That's incredibly baby. I'm sorry, but like just go home then forever. If you can't interact with the world, like the right answer is to not let them be baby like that. So you're like, hey, no, you should stay, deal with it. They talk about it from their perspective a lot when they say like white fragility and stuff, right? It should be the same for them because it actually does work, You can test it yourself. If there's something you're baby about, don't be baby. And try and do it, headstrong, think it, do it of your own cognizance, your own agency, and see how it goes. I think you'll find that you'll stop being baby. And we're all baby about some stuff, but you don't encourage baby. Baby no good. Baby no good.
Really triggering statement to just say there are two genders.
Like just say bye babies, just wave it. What you should do next time is put pacifiers on every desk of the people that went home. For that, you should put pacifiers on their desk because they're babies, right? You should put pacifiers on their desk and then just, when they come in, go, wah, wah, and do the motion with your hand by your eyeball, like, wah, wah, baby, go home, baby, you have a big day, baby sad, talk in a voice like that to him too, baby, oh, baby, not get snack, talk like that to you.
Genders, if that's not been your experience. So it's very harmful and very hurtful, and there's human lives that were affected, so I think that's the message we're
Human
trying to send,
lives.
is to maybe consider the questions that you're asking or posing before you begin your thought experiment.
Listen to babies. Babies throw tantrum. Babies throw rattle at you.
Are you curious about
Translation for you guys. Now this guy pisses me off already. Are you curious? Like, listen to his tone. I want to rewind it real quick. Sorry, I know we're trying to be nicer, but when he goes, "Are you curious about?" Like he's talking down to him, right? Like what fucking nerve? The guy is trying to have a conversation. He's trying to get something going here, and the guy talks down to him like, do you even care about the things we're saying? Like they have this like ultimate authority, and I've got this attitude. People do this to me a lot too. I think it comes from what I was saying earlier. I think this is the reaction to the second step of the whole process they do when they go, I'm telling you now, why they say like teaching moments and all that. I'm telling you now why you're evil. Okay? Now, if you choose to keep doing it, you're still evil, right? And so this is the guy kind of being like, what? Are you really not? I don't know if you're evil or not, but maybe. And if you're not evil, then why are you ignoring our opinions? Isn't that evil? Like, do you even feel anything, man? Do you even feel anything, man, for your common man? Kind of thing. I don't like it.
I think that's
Listen
the
to
message we're
him.
trying to send, is to maybe consider the questions that you're
Jerk,
asking
I
or
think.
posing before
Sorry, I don't mean people calling people names, but he's a real jerk.
you begin your thought experiment.
Are you curious about like what we're bringing to you at all, or do you have?
I'm thinking about.
Like, well, he's so condescending.
I'm extremely curious, and I'm extremely respectful. I
But
genuinely.
look at Peter, man. He's fucking composure. This is impressive. Keep that composure with this nonsense being hurled at you, which is what we all gotta do now, right? We can't get mean. We can't get down in the dirt. We gotta stay. We gotta, we gotta be calm. We gotta, like, they can't present themselves as the real voices of reason when we know they're not. They're really being emotional and reactionary and based on just their intuitions that they've been trained into through the programming. They want it to seem rational because that's what the left always does. We'll get into that in probably the next video, maybe tomorrow. It'll probably be tomorrow from when you're watching this one. I'm gonna put them out day to day, but I'm gonna get a couple filmed tonight.
Respect the fact that you came, as opposed to 7 or 8 of you giving me the middle finger and saying "fuck you" to me. So yeah, so if,
What do you gain from this? Like, what is your reason that you just want to cause
What do you
trouble,
gain?
or like why are you here?
so I'm fascinated. I do street epistemology, and I'm fascinated if the people. Epistemology is from the Greek, basically how you know what you think. Okay, so street epistemology is taking it out of the university and bringing it into the street. So I'm very curious. Okay, a sidewalk or a.
This is like 20-year-old.
This isn't street epistemology. You're doing this on the.
Okay, if you don't like the word street, you can call it plaza epistemology.
It just means like all outside, like in the outdoors, epistemology in the outdoors instead of in a classroom, right? But she still has to nitpick. Now, this is something else I notice the cultists do a lot, is if they notice anything wrong, they'll just nitpick at that and like not really, because they don't have a lot of arguments. They just want to tear you down. So if you say anything out, like they can find a thing, they'll just target that and they'll just harp on that, even though it's basically unrelated, right? Like him say street epistemology has nothing to do with anything. He's just trying to explain himself and give his view of why he's doing it. And he said he calls it street epistemology. It's not worth arguing over. It's his discipline. He can call it whatever he wants. Who cares?
But the idea is you take it out of the university and you see if the reasons that people have for things justify their confidence in it. So this is a confidence scale. We can do this with any claim you want. We can do this with a mayor of the city. We can do this with should the United States be funding Ukraine? I think it's $800 billion.
So he's basically just kind of doing experiments with people, right? He's doing experiments with real people. He's doing basically the type of things you do on surveys. You take surveys for with real people and then getting their real answers and stuff. In a way, it's a deeper dive, right? But it's less information, like much smaller sample sizes, and you could say almost useless at that size, but deeper dives individually. So I'd say I'm sure that I could see value like in him developing his discipline that he's working on here. I get it. It makes sense that you would do that, and what you would gain from that, I think, is kind of obvious, right? It's learning more about the things you're questioning and how people react and why they react and all that kind of stuff.
Should the United States, is it more important to control inflation or employment? And we put people on a spectrum. They start on, let me just explain again. So you asked, so I'll tell you. So what am I going to do?
I think what we're just saying is and I think those questions.
We all get it. We're all smart, obviously. We're educated. Always this attitude. We're educated. We get everything. Right.
These are thought-provoking and important questions to ask folks in our.
Now, see, the thing is, they're still like in their programming, given the idea, these, okay. So in order to fool people, they have to say that kind of stuff, right? Like they really care about thought-provoking and critical thought. They have to say those words. They have to preach it. But that's why they believe it, but they don't really believe it. But that's why she has to put this explanation out there like, yeah, that's good, but this is why it's not actually good. Because they don't really believe it. That's just like, but they still know that that's, they have to make a defense for it or else it looks like they're hypocrites.
Community, I think what we were struck by was the statement on the board that it wasn't a question and that there was no context clues for folks, especially trans folks, to know that this was not your belief, but this is more of a thought experiment.
Okay, would you be more comfortable if it was a question? Like if I put a question mark?
Sure.
Okay, I'm more than happy to put a question at the end.
A question is a question and not a statement.
More than happy to.
Some type of warning or a statement of like what you're doing on another board so people can walk by and like try and understand that because from afar it looks.
This is a thought experiment.
Yeah.
Warnings really quickly are how they get out of that trick that they do, right? Because if they don't do the warnings, they would get caught by their own trap. That's why they do the warnings. And you'll notice there's trigger warnings on videos and things, and people that are like in the cult, they'll put warnings on their videos in different ways. That's how they get out of the trap, right? Because the trap would catch them too. The trap of harm would catch them too for their statements. But if they put the warning, then they're saying, well, I know what I'm doing, but don't watch this if this would harm you. So that they've to them protected themselves. That's why they do it, though. It's not to really warn anyone. It's to protect themselves by their own logic from the trap that catches regular people and makes them evil. It's one trap. It's just this one trap that they use. That really it does all the destruction and makes them like go to violence and everything. It's all this one trap. We gotta understand this one trap so we don't step on it, you know. But it's one trap. So be careful with this one trap. And I think like the response I think is to just act like you've already been trapped. I think I could be wrong, but that's what I do. It's too late and I can't get trapped again, right? I've already got the bear trap on my foot. I've already triggered the trap, so there's nothing left for them to do. Is what I do, but I don't know that's totally the right way. Try your own approaches, you know.
This is what we're asking people.
I'm more than happy to do that.
And then that way it can kind of.
I'm more than happy to do that. I only have one board, but I'm more than happy to put on this is a thought experiment and put a question mark. If I put a question mark, I could. I don't know. I'm worried that people wouldn't be able to see it, but I'm more than happy to. If I put a question mark at the end and then I put another one. It's not really, it is a thought experiment, but it's more of an exercise / game starts thought experiment. If I put that on the end, would all of the concern vaporize?
No, probably not, because we're talking about real humans.
Right, probably not. Who thought that was coming? Now he's good to do this, right? He's trying to show that there is no right answer. There is no way to please them. All they want you to do is to shut the fuck up and leave. Stop it. Stop doing it forever. Never do this under no circumstances, even as a thought experiment. Do not do this, is what they really want to say. But they don't work that way. They're not like really like a lot of people are afraid of straight out like confrontation, and so they do all this like passive aggressive manipulative way, like no, like, you know, somebody giving you an excuse why they can't do something, instead of just saying I don't really want to do it. You know, you have some friends that are like that are honest with you and they'll just be like, I don't really want to do that, man. And then you have some friends that will lie to you and say, oh, I got this and that. They're all that one. The cultists all act that way, pretty much. Almost all of them do, right?
With their lived experience and their positionality.
Lived experience, positionality, we know. More nonsense words. Yes, more nonsense. More nonsense. Yes.
You know, and sort of...
More nonsense.
I might have a very different...
Bro, it's just like if you went to like a, you know, like you're an atheist, which I am, and you go to some religious thing and they'll keep telling you about like all these words from the Bible about Jesus, blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, you would recognize that they're religious in their practice, but for some reason we don't recognize this as a religion, even though it's all just based around, you know, like moral belief. Like the guy earlier said there's nothing moral about it. There's nothing but morals at play here.
Different personal feeling walking by because it doesn't target my identity specifically. So we're just sort of here to sort of advocate and elevate. Uplift. Who might be harmed by a statement like that.
But they don't even have to exist is the thing, right? They don't even have to exist. That's why they do it. But really, it's because the whole idea is designed just to shut people down that disagree. That's really the truth. The truth is, go along, let's do constant revolution, let's destroy society, or we're gonna keep harping at you until you do. We're gonna say you're harming real lives is what we're gonna do. We're gonna paint you as evil as long as you stand there. We're gonna keep trying until something sticks, and then when we finally get enough view of you as evil, maybe we can hurt you, maybe we can beat you up to make you shut up, right? You guys know, like, That's the truth of how this works.
Harmed?
And if it hasn't happened yet, it has happened, but that's what's gonna keep happening. They're gonna justify violence to other people eventually. That's the path that this is on. But people like Peter going out there and doing this kind of thing is probably how we stop it. I don't know. Who knows if it really is too late to stop like some of the worst stuff? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, people who have been like historically and currently oppressed, right, by dominant systems, patriarchy, whiteness, masculinity, all of the systems.
Now, see, here's a very interesting thing about what you just said, right? The people that were historically oppressed, but there are no people that were historically oppressed that are alive. Like, historically oppressed, she very conveniently, like, this sounds obvious to her, right? And the cultist. But to a rational person, it doesn't, because she's not taught. When she says people, she doesn't mean what groups of individuals that are people. She means groups of power, these different groups in the different hierarchies, these different identity groups. These are the people now. These are the folks. These are the people. When she says people, she doesn't mean groups of individuals, a bulk of individuals like most of us mean. She means a bulk of groups. Very interesting, right? That's very interesting. They do that because I don't think they see people having any agency. There's 3 pillars, I think, I took a note earlier. There's 3 pillars, I'd say, of what it requires to believe in the nameless cult. Here's what they are. 1, a lack of individual agency or personal responsibility. And that's this one. That's the one she's expressing right now. If you think everything's a group, and the reason you develop this kind of belief, I think, is because, okay, let me give you a quick story. Let's say you're somebody and your life really sucks, and it really isn't your fault, but you still got to go, okay, well, it's not my fault. And you need somebody to blame to not feel like you're a failure and blah, blah, blah. And so people are telling you, oh, well, it's white people or what? Of course you're not succeeding. It's white people. And you go, oh, okay. And then you start seeing the world that way. And then you start seeing it as it's white people or a group together that collectively can do things. You take the agency from the individual because you did it with yourself. You see, it first requires giving up that individual agency of yourself up to what could be described as a higher power. Once you got to do that, that's what you have to do. You have to go, I can't do it. I'm not responsible for it. It's my group. It's because of the group I'm in. I was how I was born. That's why, and that other group is responsible. That's number 1. Now, number 2, a belief in relative reality or your truth, my truth. Who knows what's true? That's another important one. That's a key one. And the third one is arrogance. It's being arrogant enough to believe that you know better than most people on earth. Those 3 pillars, if you have those 3 pillars, it's very easy to fall for the cult's tricks. In fact, I believe people build those 3 pillars in you on purpose to, make you give up your agency to them. As an individual, because I think like America is so cool because of the whole backing of the idea of the individual that the forefathers did, and it's really important to keep that in mind. Keep the individual in mind. Only the individual can do things. Groups can't do anything. Just like she just said, that people have been historically marginalized. There's no people that go to that school that have been historically marginalized. That is not what the people there are. She's saying because we have black students here, because we have trans students here, they've historically been marginalized as peoples. But those people have not been historically marginalized. But nonetheless, they don't care about that. That's why they can say statements that are ridiculous like that and blur the people of groups together as if they have agency and as if they make any choices or if they have any responsibility that way. They don't. Groups can't make choices. Only individuals can make choices. And sometimes we act like a group made a choice, but it never did. It was always individuals in those groups. It was always individuals. That's always the case. We can never lose sight of that, or else we might end up, you know, falling for the same traps that the wokes do, the nameless cultists do.
That harm people who don't fit within those sort of more rigid.
That's why you want a question and not a statement.
Can I also ask, like,
Now, I just want an answer. That's why you want a question, not a statement?
I think a question is an invitation, right?
More than happy to make it a question.
Participate in this conversation.
More than happy to do that.
You know, you're representing, you know, with your identity, a belief, perhaps when it's
Representing with your identity, right? None of us see the world that way, right? Most of us don't. I hope you guys don't. But they see them as, in the world, what are you? Well, you're white, you're cis. What? That's not what I am. I'm a translator. I love comic books. I really love science fiction. I love talking about ideas. You know, and like, no. I was the oldest of four. I had a single mother. No. No. None of that. No. None of that defines you. No, what defines you and your identity, white. Oh, okay. White, male. Oh, okay. Cis, what? What even is that? Sounds like a slur. Anyway, like, it's so ridiculous. And the fact that they don't see it as ridiculous is just, well, what do we learn here, man? I don't know. I think we just really just get our heads in how they're thinking, I think, and how far away from a conversation we're still with having with them, a lot of the cultists, and looking for ways to bridge that. Peter's doing a good job trying out there. We just got to look and think. And I don't know if any of us know the right answer yet for this problem of how to get to the cultists and reach them in any real way, because they have that programming for the trap to trap you in. And once they think of you as evil, once they think of you as caught in that trap, they don't listen to you anymore. They don't care about you anymore. They think of you as like Satan now. Anyway,
especially
keep
when
watching.
It's a statement. And so what it looks like is you're out here saying there are two genders, and then anyone who doesn't fall within those two sort of binary boxes,
I'm more than happy to do that.
that's where the harm comes from.
More than happy to say this is a thought experiment. No, let me just finish. More than happy to do that. But it seems that if I did that, that would not be enough.
You might have.
But then
to do more
I might not be the person to, you know, again, I think asking folks who hold those identities, sort of, if
Yeah, see, the identity is special privilege, right? It's like, it's special authority that only they can have. Did you really believe in that? What nonsense, right?
that is enough. So asking queer students, asking trans.
Like, there are things that are universally true about humans, and one of them, well, not universally true about humans, well, universally, like, I don't know, morals that we've all kind of agreed upon. One of those used to be freedom of speech. One of those used to be the right to freedom of speech and the right to say anything, because without people doing that, then the truth doesn't come out. And it's very easy to censor the truth. And once a society skews away from the truth, then it's doomed. Then large parts of it are going to fail. And when those failures happen at societal level, they cause a lot of harm, way more harm than being kind saves you from. It saves anyone from. So in the end, that's why you always have to let people say anything. You have to. Now, that doesn't mean like in private property or whatever, and also doesn't mean crimes. You know, like things that cross over into real, you know, risks of harm. That's a whole different conversation. But besides that, you have to let people say anything, or else how do we know the truth is being said? If we're worried about these lines, then we don't know the truth is out there. We don't know that people are speaking the truth. If we know everybody's allowed to say anything, then we know like what the respected people are saying is probably pretty true, because they would have people saying no bullshit if they weren't telling the truth, you know. So it's just better. It's just better for everyone if everyone speaks the truth, and especially for distillation of what is true. Like, people act like letting people say shit that's harmful, quote unquote, and all that stuff dilutes the truth. It does the opposite, though. It exposes what the truth is eventually, because it has to.
students, asking gay students, if you're asking about race or poverty or religion or people.
Race or poverty or religion. I like how they bring up poverty like they give a shit, bro. They do not care if you were poor. I found that out for sure. They don't care if you grew up poor. They do not give a fuck. They do not care if you are poor. Do not pretend like you do, man. And they always pretend like they do too. They go, marginalized groups, blah, blah, blah. You know what the most marginalized group is? It's kids with without a father. That's the most marginalized group, and nobody brings that up. That's how I know I distrust. That's how I distrust most of these. That's how I think that was the detail that saw me from ever joining the cult in any real way. Knowing that the most disenfranchised, the most screwed over group is children with only one parent, and even worse so if it's the mother. Right? And not that it's better with just a dad, like so much better that it's great. I'm not saying that. It's just like in a lot of the numbers, that's how it works out when it comes to income, when it comes to. But in either way, still the gap is bigger than any other gap. Like when you look at white and black people, you look at gay people, whatever freaking two numbers you want to compare that everybody uses to show inequalities. Now look at the gaps between kids that grew up without a father and kids that had a father. Look that up. Look that up real quick. Check those numbers out, because the gap is bigger in every single category, every way you slice it, every way you look at it. It's worse that gap is bigger, but no one cares. Like if theoretically we cared about harm, that would be the issue. That would be the most harm reduction you could do, is helping the kids without a father have better outcomes. But we don't care. Like people think that if you say that you're saying, you know, fix the family, that they're screwed. No, I'm saying why don't we focus on getting them better outcomes though over like any other thing, because that would be the best way to do it, right? They're the most disenfranchised, they're the most disadvantaged. Let's help those kids specifically. Let's target them with the most of our resources, because that's how you save a generation, in my opinion. But nobody acknowledges that. Nobody acknowledges that. And it's crazy, man. Nobody acknowledges that. And then they go, all these other groups, yada, yada, poverty. You don't care about poverty, man. If you cared about poverty, you'd care about that, because that's also most kids in poverty. That's also most kids in poverty. So it's just baloney, man. And I wish they wouldn't fake. That's how, like, don't let them call it the poverty one, because they don't give a crap. And that you can't find any proof of them giving a crap. They can go on and on about trans, go on and on about gay, go on and on about black people, but they will not. I mean, they don't really do anything for any of those groups, but you know what I mean. They will, but they certainly will not have any examples of them doing anything for poor people or caring about poor people in any significant way. They just say that because they want to, you know, a lot of them are also Marxists, and they want to bring back up the class struggle into the topic. That's it.
People who are part of those groups can really inform you better than I can.
You wanted to say, I wanted to hear her through.
No, I get it. And I'm just wondering, like, are any of you all, like, trained professionals in trauma-informed care? Like, if a transgender...
Trauma? Are you kidding me? You can't say controversial things out loud unless you're trained in trauma, quote unquote trauma. No, most of the stuff you are talking about trauma is not trauma. Trauma used to mean, like, you know, like something you see in a war, and you'd have PTSD and they have shell shock, whatever you want to call it. That's we've made the word trauma meaningless. And like I said earlier, psychology is not a real science for the most part. So look into the replication crisis if you don't know much about that. I want to give people more leads to look up stuff themselves. Replication crisis, look into that. Look into what was the guy's name? It was something like Jim Breen, something like that. He did a jet beam. He did a study into ESP and proved it was real. Using pornographic images on a screen and like guessing which one it was going to be. And if you guess right, then ESP was real, because they weren't deciding on which one the door. It was like two doors on a screen, right? And one had porn behind it, the other didn't. And you had to guess which one the porn was. Now the thing was, it didn't have either yet. Somebody in the other room picked after you picked. So that was trying to show that ESP was real. And they did so many studies on this. He did so many experiments so many times. He repeated it so many times. Eventually he had enough times to say multiple studies, multiple tests have confirmed this, and it's statistically significant, because eventually, of course, just random luck, eventually you get it to look statistically significant. And all psychology, then that started the replication crisis, and then they started looking into it, and like 70% of psychological papers cannot be reproduced. The field is mostly fake, and it's now been taken over by the ideological people too. And also, like I said earlier, the stuff like microaggressions is true in psychology. Psychology is baloney. Like if you're looking for real mental health stuff, cognitive behavioral therapy probably works. You also got to learn how to read the papers yourself a little bit, so you can know what's legitimate and what's not, and then start doing research yourself, I think. Because there is some real psychology research. There is some, and you probably want to read it if you're into that. You got to learn how to do it though, and it wouldn't be going to school that you would learn. Probably. Anyway.
Gender individual were to come to the space and participate, and then there was a triggering response where they needed emotional support. Like, are you ready to support that? Because this conversation can bring up a lot of emotions, and the people that are kind of working within it could be really triggered. But
again, baby's gonna baby. If baby come, baby throw rattle. You shut up, get hit by rattle.
if no one's there as like an advocate,
like you're talking about babies, man. That's not trauma. You're talking about babies. If they're that baby, definitely don't stop telling the baby more, man. Again, if we had real psychological research, this would be so obvious, right? That what you're saying is complete nonsense.
advocate or support, it could be pretty detrimental to the community you're asking.
Also, in my opinion, regular people can deal with this themselves. Like if you're hanging out with a friend and other people, like they'll like if you go too far, a decent person will stop usually. You know what I mean? Like they're acting like there's no. It's so dehumanizing every way they think about everything. It's like they want everything to be a system and be controlled by the system, which is basically, you know, again, a higher power. They want the system to handle everything. Well, the system. Why is the system better than you and your friends just doing it? You know, just having support. If you're worried about that, why don't you just provide support for anybody that gets sad? Or, you know, like just do that. Just do it, man. You know, make that your job if you care so much, instead of complaining about it.
So I just want to like frame that. If you're not having like an advocate there as someone that can like be an emotional support or regulation for the people,
like it's very easy to complain, it's very hard to do,
that are potentially harmed or triggered in this conversation, whether they're participating or not, like that's a potential thing to think about and could be a flaw in the system, because you need to have someone to be able to support that emotionally, mentally, and for people's trauma. So if you're not, it's kind of like these people might leave and feel like without any support or any understanding of what they just went through. So
Yeah,
just to think that.
And we know people who are in the gender minority experience higher rates of suicidal ideation.
Oh my god. Yes, we know. Yes, we know. Yes, we know.
Higher rates of things.
They use that like such a weapon, man. They always bring that up that way, and it's such a dirty trick. Using people, it's so dirty to just use stuff like that to make your points. And they do it a lot of time, right? It's not just that issue either. They'll bring up well, of course they bring up Nazis right away, the Holocaust right away, but whatever horrible thing they can, like rape culture, every horrible thing they can bring up, they will, instead of like, and they'll put it on their side like they're scoring points. It's ridiculous. You just gotta, I think, in the case of that kind of thing, I don't know the right move. Just ignore it, I think. Move on. Because, yeah,
Anxiety and depression, and like they're seeing messages like this all throughout their lives. And so campus is supposed to be a safe space where everyone can exist freely in their own identities and who they are and be learned.
That's definitely not what campus should be. That makes campus totally useless. That makes it a giant daycare. And you don't need daycare for adults. You need to help adults grow up as quick as possible. That's what they need. If you've never read it, a really good book on this is The Medium is the Massage. I think it was written in the 70s. Really cool book on this topic.
Learning and be talking about these really, really important things within our culture and society. And by walking through this community member that we care about that should be in class today, learning about how to take care of their community and how to support marginalized individuals like themselves and others.
Why do they need special training for that? Just do it. What are you talking about? It's so ridiculous to think you need training for everything. No, just do it. Just help out your friends. Just why? What are you talking about? It's such nonsense. Like,
Can't participate today because they saw that message. Yeah. And that's what we mean by
Right, if they're that baby, they're not going to participate in all kinds of things in the real world outside of college. You are making them so weak that when they go into the real world, they're screwed. You're hurting them down the line. It's just not as obvious that that's what you're doing. But it's pretty obvious to most people now. I think the evidence kind of speaks for itself in a lot of ways. Most of us see it. And just stop it. Just stop babying people. Let people be. Sometimes you need tough love. And there's not enough tough love in the world anymore. And I don't mean toughness, I mean tough love.
by far. Yeah, and honestly, I don't even think adding a question mark is enough. I think it should
course.
be more of what is your perspective on
Oh,
gender identity?
oh my God.
Because then you're opening up the question, or gender in general, right?
Don't do at all what you're doing. Just do this nonsense. Like, how would he sort people agreeing with, what does gender mean to you, really? Who knows? Shut up. Come on. And also, most people aren't confused about this. It's only specific people that are.
Right? Because we know that it's not just about identity, it's about who that person is. And
Who that person is has nothing to do with the gender in the first place, really. Like, outside of the physical truths about, your sex, it doesn't matter otherwise, right?
and by really framing it in the binary, that's where there's harm. Can I put in
It's where there's harm. Remember harm? Remember what that means? It means, again, what somebody could hypothetically be hurt by. And you got it, right? They were talking about the same thing I was talking about. They're just talking about people being offended and hurt and blah, blah, blah. That basically means you chose to hurt them.
Like my 2 cents as a non-binary
This is what they call that, standpoint epistemology, where you have special, you got to sort yourself on the chart of the different groups and go, as this one has special authority on this one. Non-binary, what special authority do you have? You're nothing, right? You're nothing. You're non-binary. You're not on the binary. What authority would you have of like being non-binary? That's not a thing. You can say like I have angel authority all you want, but you're saying gibberish. You know what I mean? Like you can say, oh, I have. Hey, Zeus called me. I identify as a Zeus. I have a Zeus. I have power over the storms. Can I speak? I have power over the storms. Hello. Power over the storms here. Can I talk? I have power over the storms. I think I'm Goku. I'm Goku from Dragon Ball. Can I talk? I'm Goku from Dragon Ball. I really am. I'm reincarnated from the manga book.
person. Cool.
Cool. God, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. In what way would you ever be like, oh, you're non-binary? Let me hear of you. You talk over everyone else. Why? Oh, because I'm non-binary. What? No. What do you have to say, period? Like, who are you? Who are you? I'm non-binary. What is that? No, who are you? Like the freaking scene in in Alice in Wonderland when he's blowing the smoke in her face. Who are you? Right? Who are you? Tell us who you are.
Gender non-conforming. I
Great, we got that much. But who are you? Who are you?
use they them pronouns. Do you know
Who are you?
what that means?
Who are you?
I believe so, yes.
Are you aware of like the theory of social constructionism?
Yes, it's nonsense, bro. Social constructionism is a direct way, you shouldn't even bring it up, because it's a direct way to tie the current stuff people believe in, like the non-binary stuff, to the Frankfurt School, which people say is a conspiracy theory if you tie those two together. Cultural Marxism, as, saying that the Frankfurt School developed ideas which applied Marxism to culture, is a conspiracy theory, even though it's, you can actually look it up. Boo! Conspiracy. But they're giving that theory ties everything together. You probably shouldn't use that theory. They should come up with a different name for it or something. Because I know they don't realize that they're doing that, but they actually tie the Frankfurt School with that. Because all somebody has to do is Google what you just said. Social constructivism, and they can now tie Frankfurt School, right? Just Google that real quick. You can now tie Frankfurt School to modern gender theory real quick in a nice little bow. You know, like that she's giving the ammunition for that. Well, but I guess they always give us the ammunition. They just don't acknowledge, you know, the reality, so it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
So
I'm a gender studies scholar.
yeah. So I'm much younger than you. These
I'm
are
a gender
all,
studies
you know,
scholar.
this is all very
He technically
new, I
is, right?
understand. Like my parents are boomers. They're in their 60s. They've had a really hard time understanding. So I've had to explain this to a lot.
Now, this is also baloney too, where they act like people are just older, so they just know less. I guess that's always part of the whole nameless cults agenda throughout history, right? They've always kind of been like that. Like, we're the smartest now. We're smarter than anybody in the past has ever been. Only we can do this. That's always true, right? Look at any versions of the nameless cult throughout history. They always believe that.
A lot of people in your generation. So you're aware of social constructionism. You're aware of
You're aware of it. Now, notice notice it just says that, right? Notice it just says that. Notice it goes, you're aware of social constructivism. You're aware of social constructivism, right? You're aware of social constructivism. As if that's been established as a real thing. Social constructivism is ridiculous nonsense. Like even the fields in psychology that are legitimate, the parts of psychology that are legitimate, have basically disproven that pretty roundly. Like what nature versus nurture debate, right? Now for her view to be right, for that to be true, for social constructivism to be true, then there is no nature versus nurture. They're saying it's all nurture, which is not true. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that's not true. And you have to ignore all of that evidence and just go, well, everything could be constructed. How do you know? Even you agreeing could be constructed. The only thing constructed is the left and right political spectrum, you ask me, in the whole topic.
gender as a social
Well, and gender. They've constructed the freaking idea of gender that nobody else really had. Everybody else just thought of it as a synonym for sex, basically. And then they're like, nope, it's this other thing that lets people have sex with kids. And you're like, wait, what? Yeah. And you're like, wait, what? I thought it was about, trans and other stuff. Well, kind of. But if you listen to every single gender theorist, there's a defense, almost every one of them defends pedophilia, and there's an implied support for pedophilia in pretty much every gender theorist body of work. Look at what did John Money do with those 4 little kids? Oh, I don't know. Why don't you look that up? John Money real quick? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Did anything horrible happen around gender identity? Oh, no. Oh, okay. As long as we don't look.
construct. When you say there are only 2 genders, those 2 genders are just social constructs that we made up.
Yes, again, says people like John Money. People like John Money. Look into that, man.
You were assigned a male at birth because you have a penis.
Assigned, she says.
You present as male. Do you identify as male?
Identify.
Are you asking if I identify as male? I identify as male.
Because you were assigned a male at birth. Are you cis?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure where you're going with this. I'm trying to understand where you're going.
Yeah, why are you agreeing to all this nonsense? Like, just sort of make some point that you have no point to make. Like, she's established, all she's trying to do is invalidate your opinion, and she's just trying to establish the groundwork to do that.
The idea of there being only 2 genders is a social construct because we have this idea of being assigned female at birth, assigned male at birth. Now, I'm non-binary.
Now, just saying we have a construct doesn't make it true. Just saying it doesn't make it true. There are elements to, what we expect from men and women, but those are just stereotypes. That's not a whole construct. Those are just stereotypes we have. And those change. Those are fluid, gender fluid.
Binary, that's something that I have learned about myself over the last 6-7 years. After I was a teenager, I learned about sociology. I learned about gender and social constructs.
Sociology, another real field.
And I realized
sociology is a real field, right, guys? That's a real one.
I don't fit into the box of just a cis woman. Okay, my gender is completely
I don't fit into the box. I'm not like other girls. I'm not like other girls. I'm non-binary. Bro, we know the type of girl that's not like other girls. It's almost every other girl, bro. To tell... I don't fit in the mold of other girls. You ever met a girl? That's girl. Only girl, pretty much that's what every girl thinks. That's the most girl, sorry. But right? Isn't that the most girl thing on the earth to be like, I'm not like other girls? What are you talking about? That's girl. Girls do that.
Whatever I feel like in the moment. I'm not just one solid thing.
That's the most girl behavior you can do, though, is to say, I'm not in the box of girl. Of regular girl, that ain't me. Uh-huh. I've never heard that before. I've never heard a girl say that. I've never heard a girl say that, ever.
Gender, these are all social constructs that we've...
You don't have to establish that with any, evidence. You just say it. That's what social constructivism is. And again, from the Frankfurt School, she's tying it herself back. I'm telling you, don't... Oh, they don't even know what they're doing, man. She's tying it back. She's making that conspiracy theory that we're outlawed to talk about, that cultural Marxism is the basis of it all, and it comes from the Frankfurt School. We're not allowed to say any of that because that's a conspiracy theory. But she's making the case right now.
Created within our society, our binary society, where we've decided there's only male or female. So many people don't fit into that. And like, why do you feel like you're a man? Because you've been socialized to believe these things are associated with being a man. These things are associated with being a woman. There's only 2 boxes. But you don't have to conform to that. That's just what society has told you from birth.
Well, yeah, you don't have to conform to it. Just do whatever. Like, there's no right way to be a man. There's no right way to be a woman. Just be yourself. And how I view it is we inherit masculinity from our father and we inherit femininity from our mother. And that's just it. You have both of them. And that's why, like, there's phrases like getting in touch with my feminine side and things like that. Like, there's no right way to be those things. And yes, as a culture, we recognize that. And we're the most fluid it's ever been about it. And that level of, like, openness to it is fine. But to then go, like, well, there's no gender, there's no sex, there's no nothing. It's like, wait, what? There's no right way to be man. There's no right way to be woman. There's no right way to be male. There's no right way to be female. That's fine. We can accept that. We move on. That doesn't make you not those things. The only reason you need to do that is because of the Marxist nonsense where you need to transcend to become the ultimate communist man,
Someone said, a doctor said, this person has
And by man, I mean like human, not man.
a penis.
Because they obviously have to destroy 3 things, okay? This is something I figured out. Marx even lays it out, kind of. They have to destroy 3 things. Okay, so Marx says the start of the first slavery, the first division of labor is the family between the man, the wife, and child. So what are the 3 concepts they have to destroy to to become the communist man that can share production universally and be fair to everyone? And all that, other nonsense, utopian nonsense that you have to become a communist. Well, male, man, woman, child. What are they attacking right now? Like, what are the biggest attacks right now? What is the end goal? Destroying the concept, if you ask me, destroying the concept of man, woman, and disgustingly, horrifically, child. Like, everybody's like, why does it always go back to pedophiles and stuff? Well, I believe that's why. I believe that's why, because that's the final concept that needs to be knocked down in order for the family to reunite and be able to be a wider social entity, because there's not the family dividing them from other families, right? So you have to destroy the family. You have to destroy it. There's no children, there's no men, there's no men, there's no women. There's just people of the society that freely share everything with each other. Now, if that doesn't scare the shit out of you,
I'm going to assume that they have to be a man and fit into this box their whole life. But why? That's just...
I would love to hear other voices if you wanted to say something.
he's like, enough of this. Enough of this it. Let's hear somebody else.
Do you feel that this is a debate?
Well, how do they have the right to decide that, right? Like, what fucking arrogance to be like, I don't think anything here is useful. I don't think you should do it. Well, who asked you? Like, is it up to you what other people do with their time? Why is it? Notice how many of them are masked too. Jesus, when was this?
When you say I want to hear from everyone else.
No, I do want to.
I didn't actually care to hear what you
No, I listened and I'm processing
Look at that guy talking down again. I told you. What a jerk.
the thing. Would you
Sorry, don't call people names, but he's being a real jerk, man.
like me to engage her?
I want to hear
You want to hear from him?
Now I want to hear from her.
Okay.
But why do we care what they want to hear from when we're not supposed to be lifting, like their voices aren't supposed to count at all?
Do you have anything to say?
I actually don't want to hear.
The camera
I
guy?
just want to make sure. So this is what I want. I don't want the reason that I'm more than happy to engage you. The reason that I said that is you have how many people here? 15, I'm guessing. No, but no, the reason I said that is because I don't want you to walk away and someone to say you didn't give me a chance to talk. So I didn't give her a chance to talk before, but that's only because I was listening to what you were going to say, and I realized that the classes here aren't a lot of time. And the reason that I switched from what she had, and I'm more than happy to listen to her, is because I don't want people. It's
They just told you their pronouns and their lived experience.
okay. Then okay. So instead of getting
The experience of someone that doesn't conform to what I.
okay, so this individual just told me that, and I'm trying to be reasonable. And I think it's better to have a conversation than for you guys to give me the finger and yell "fuck you." So you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
It's already been you.
Aren't you
so
the
I
guy that
think
made up a bunch of
it's maybe
academic data and
important
submitted it to
to
journals?
address
Pretty
that
sure
she
that's
did,
you.
like just address you just called this person a
Okay.
he, and they just told you their gender was
Okay.
they.
Well,
Oh, he mispronounced him. Uh-oh, he did the harm. He's evil now. There's no back. That's all they're going to talk about now. He's evil now.
I apologize, and I say they.
That's the harm being done that we were talking about.
Do you accept
I told you. There it is. They're just hunting for that harm.
my apology? Okay.
See, now there's no harm. Now there's no harm, but they're not going to accept that because that's not how it works. They still see harm because it could have caused harm.
It's a generational,
How is it generational? Your parents were non-binary? What are you talking about? Your parents are definitely not binary because you had a mom and a dad, right? You have a mom, you have a dad. That's how you have parents. You have those two. No matter how it works out otherwise. You had a mom and a dad. There's no generational thing. What are you talking about? You have two non-binary parents. Come on.
education. If you
Okay. So
and want
Go
to
ahead.
change and learn, that's great. I love that, and I accept your apology.
Yeah, again, she's like, it's okay, you're old and dumb. That's what she's really saying, right? Because, again, they really think that. They think the old generation is just stupid and needs to conform with the young. Like, they see no wisdom in the old, which is tragic, I think. Like, when I was younger, I made that mistake, too. But old people have wisdom, man. Like, a lot of it. Depending on how they live their life, of course. But some of them have a lot of wisdom. I'm not saying respect everyone because they're old, but maybe just, don't disrespect them either. They might know a lot,
So isn't it better to have a conversation about this than to scream at someone from the rooftop?
Oh, I don't know who, I certainly didn't scream at you from the rooftop. Did any of you guys scream?
Yeah, I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
No, yeah, they did, yeah.
So you guys were screaming and
I like how she acts like she doesn't know. She was up there. She saw it.
yelling "fuck you" to me.
That's how dishonest people act, though. I don't know what you do. Just call them out on it. Just keep calling them out on things and moving the conversation forward. I think Peter is showing us a good example of that, right? Call them out. Make your point. Keep making your point. If it's not, just like Jesse Lee Peterson does, keep making your point. Keep asking the same question. Keep on. Just trudge through it. Ignore the stuff you don't really want to talk about. Don't address all their concerns because half of them are nonsensical. And just keep going through it, making your point, showing what you're actually talking about. Ignore their attempts to do stuff. And if they do like Darvo, they start trying to do Darvo kind of techniques. Point it out. If you don't know what Darvo is, it is deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. It's like when you you call somebody out on something, they go, no, that's not true. And it's what a lot of the cultists do. You go, no, that's not, they go, no, that's not true. They deny it first. They say, blah, blah, blah. Look at this rebuttal. Look at this. That's already been debunked. Look at this other fake science. Look at that. Look at this. That's what they start with. They deny whatever your claim is, even if it's legitimate, even if there's no way they can deny it, they still will. That's why, like, stop fighting these people on just facts. Like, make your case, sure, but don't expect them to buy the case. They won't buy any of your evidence. What they're going to do is deny your evidence, attack you, say you're some kind of racist, say you're some kind of this, say you're some kind of that, look for some way to attack you, and then reverse it and say you're hurting people instead of the other way around.
Giving me the finger.
We were just saying, please go away. You're not welcome.
No, I said fuck
I think
you.
I said.
But you can call out that kind of behavior, okay? Do that. Call it out as Darvo. Call it out as what it is. And yeah, look it up too, because there's all kinds of like posters and stuff you could reuse if you wanted to just like, you know, be a smart ass online and just post a poster and reply to someone or whatever.
Okay. Okay. So
Can I just? My goal is to disrupt this.
no.
Yeah, of course his goal is to disrupt it because he's a real jerk. I've been saying that. I told you guys he was a jerk, right? He has no purpose but being a jerk, just destruction. And he thinks he's a good guy, man. If your goal in life is destruction.
Not any more harm to
So okay. So I understand that you believe on. I can't remember.
He thinks he has to disrupt it because that's preventing harm in his view. He thinks he's saving people. Isn't that ridiculous? Again, the same thing we went over at the start. Hopefully you guys got that, or you already knew it. And you see now how they think. Again, they're not crazy. Like if you ever think someone's crazy and you stop at that point, you're like if you go, I don't understand, they're crazy. Those two statements. The first statement's true. The second statement is you justifying to yourself why you're giving up on understanding them. Why you're justifying your failure to understand them, which is okay, like, you know, but it's still like a failure to understand them when you do that. Almost always. When you go that, they're freaking nuts. It's just you giving up. You're just justifying why you're giving up and trying to understand them. They're not actually necessarily crazy. You just hit a wall and given up.
Where that over there she moved, but I understand that you believe this stuff, and we live in a democracy, and other people
Notice how he says that. I understand you believe this stuff.
don't have those beliefs, and I want to ask people if the reasons they have for their beliefs are justified, and this is that experiment.
Your thought experiment, we actually have to go. We're not part of the thought experiment. We're all social workers, and we saw this harm being done, and we just wanted to come
We
here.
saw this harm being done. She's still saying. What harm have they established? Oh, the people going home, the babies going home because they saw it? Jesus Christ. Sorry.
with
For
curiosity
the religious.
and also some information.
And do you feel that you've spoken? Do you feel that if anybody else has something to say that you haven't had an opportunity to speak?
Do you feel like you've learned anything or taken?
Well,
Are you kidding me, you jerk? Sorry, don't call anybody names, but he's a freaking jerk. Also, I noticed the person behind him looks like a top, or I don't know. Like, just look at the form of the person right behind him. Wow, like a human top, right? Just like a human top is what they look like right in this moment, like a human top. I don't know what else you would say. Whatever else other options you got, feel free to hit me with them. But like a human top. Okay. With clown shoes, kinda, because they're really colorful, not because they're big. Okay, now, do you, right? Because the reason he did this is because he's looking for what I was saying he's looking for, the confirmation this guy's evil and he has a right to disrupt him. He wants him to go, no, I didn't learn anything, or whatever. He's witch hunting right now. He's looking for confirmation. He's trying to call out the evil of what he sees in this man. He wants to know he's unrepentant, and that the witch is unrepentant. Look, she doesn't even apologize for being a witch.
but that doesn't answer my question. I just asked if anybody else has.
Right? He's like,
would
we're not
like
talking
to
about that.
speak.
That we're not talking about that. I got a question. What are you asking me a question for? Like, here's the thing about questions. A lot of those type of people don't. The cultists never seem to realize. Somebody answering one of your questions is doing you a favor. So you should act like that, right? If you're asking someone a question, they are doing you a favor to respond, especially if you don't really know the person. Like, there's some times where it's like, you know, you're like, there's a good reason that you could be going at them like angry, you know what I mean? Like, but that's with a built-up relationship with the person. Anyways, so I don't know. You just shouldn't you shouldn't act like you just deserve an answer just because you asked a question. You don't have a right to just demand questions from people. Can you imagine that if everybody did that of people? It's ridiculous. They'd be answering questions all day. You don't have the right to other people's time, you know? And if you want some of it, you should act like it's a favor to you for them to give you some of it. Time is precious. And even the people you don't like, you should understand that their time is precious and every bit they're sharing with you is also precious. And if you want more of it, you have to earn it. You have to be kind. You have to be somebody that deserves to be replied to.
If you'd like to speak, I'm standing here. Okay.
But I think to Joel's point, we hope that
No, not to Joel's point.
this was informative and
His name starts with a J too, of course.
helpful. And sorry if saying fuck you hurt your feelings. And
Sorry if saying fuck you hurt your feelings. Now she said saying fuck you hurt your feelings. She's admitting she did it when 2 seconds ago she lied, huh? She said saying fuck you. She didn't say they said, sorry that they said fuck you. She's saying, I'm sorry that saying fuck you, because she did say it. Oh my god. The liar is caught. The liar is caught, but she's coming clean, so then at the end of the day she doesn't feel like she did anything wrong and that this guy is just a piece of poop and she's not. Right? This whole speech right now is for her own feelings later. It's to justify her actions to herself. That's why she does this right now.
No, it didn't hurt my feelings.
good, I'm glad, because our student who
People do that to me too. They're like, "Oh, sorry, I hurt you," blah blah blah. Like, but like half fake sincere, because they're not really. Of course they're not.
who was hurt, we're worried about.
Who was her, not
and
you.
Potentially many others, and so that's why we came down to talk to you, just because we have a personal connection.
Well, I'm glad. Isn't it better to have a conversation with someone than to?
Yes.
I mean, isn't that what the whole enterprise should be about?
Mm-hmm.
It's not safe for everybody to have that conversation.
Sometimes it's hard to just have a simple
not safe.
conversation.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing it like every fucking day of your life.
Yeah.
This is
What the fuck? Again, all these random weird assumptions about people they don't know, people they aren't, but they're protecting them, right? Because they're the good guys. They're the good guys. It's on the right side of history.
something we're fighting for and advocating for. This is our job and what we care about.
You're not fighting for anything. You're doing the same boot tactics. What are they called? Steel boot when you booted thugs. You're acting like you're shutting down conversation is what you're doing. You're not protecting anyone. Shutting down conversation is never protecting people. And you'd really have to make a really strong argument to me to convince me otherwise.
What we're passionate about, so sometimes it's hard to keep all.
Yeah, and they always say that crap too. Like, who cares if you're passionate about it, baby? You know, like, go cry home like with the other babies. Go home and cry like they did. If you're if you're so passionate about it, go cry like a baby somewhere. Because like adults have to talk now.
All those emotions in when
Right? Like, we're so emotional, like fragile little babies. No, shut up. That's the problem. Deal with it. Like all the rest of us do. I'm so tired of these people acting like their problems are your problem. They're like, I'm emotional, sorry. Yeah, no, check that. Check yourself. Check yourself. Don't take out your weird emotions, your weird passion. Like, it's more reason that you should be apologetic about your biases and your anger and shit. Instead, they're using it to explain why they have a right to pick on you, why they have a right to be mean to you, why you should shut up again.
we see someone that we care about being.
Again, if they had personal responsibility, I'm telling you, I'm trying to highlight these pillars here in these people. If they respected personal responsibility, they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be doing this. They'd be doing something else.
And do you think that the best way for people to understand, what is the best way for people to understand your point of view?
This right now, showing up.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, advocating.
Advocating for the people that may feel like they don't have a voice.
Okay, so the people who watch this, because this is being videoed, do you think that the people who watch this, who don't agree with you, as a result of having watched this, will then agree with you?
I'm not asking them to agree with me.
But don't you want to facilitate social change?
Right.
I'm asking you to have a different perspective.
I'm asking you to have a different perspective. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. That's not something anyone has a right to do. What a narcissistic request. And again, asking, they mean demanding. You don't. No one has a right to tell anyone else how to view things. Jesus Christ, that's ridiculous. Sorry again, religious people. I'm sorry.
Understand where we're coming from because we came down here to.
You don't have a right to other people's mind. You know what I mean? And people need to get over thinking they do. You have no right to other people's minds. Leave them alone. Other people are just fine on their own. They're just fine making their own decisions. Leave them alone like that. Stop acting like you need to think this way. Nah, man. Nah, we don't. Nah, we don't. And we ain't gonna. Right? We all need to just say nope to those people. Nope. I won't have that viewpoint. Nope. I'm not listening to you. Or I guess just ignore him is what we should do.
I understand where you're coming from.
What does he do?
I don't think that anyone.
Did you really though?
Decide if this is
Okay, but you have to please be honest with me. Is that really why you came down, to understand?
Yeah.
Now, good question. Good question. No, good question. They most certainly did not, right? Good question.
Okay, and what?
He's got him.
What is your understanding of why
He's got him right here, no?
I'm doing this?
He's gonna dunk him.
Care about how you.
Well, they're not even gonna notice, though. They're not even gonna notice. But let's watch the end, and then we'll call the video. And I'll see you next time. We're almost done. We only got a couple more minutes.
What? I'm sorry.
Or a minute and a half.
What is it?
It's not. I just want to tell you, we don't care about your thought experiment. We care about the impact. The impact that it's having on.
Remember impact, guys. Remember what that means.
Okay, so you didn't come down to understand why I'm doing this then?
We came down here
to shut you down.
like, what you're doing is harming others.
Right. So you didn't come down to understand. That's why I asked you to please be honest.
I truly do want to understand why this even exists.
Because we didn't want to.
Why this even exists. Listen to the way she phrased that. She doesn't want to understand why this even exists. Because she's condemning you and she doesn't get why the fuck you're being evil in her framework.
Know how your game works doesn't mean we weren't coming down here.
So what is it that you understand?
Right, but the game is important difference in why they're talking about what they're talking about as opposed to what you accused them of. But the thing is, the reason there's a misunderstanding is because the cultists are not being honest about what they're doing. And he's pointing that out, but she's being somewhat honest, right? Or it, whatever. It is being well, I don't know. They didn't say, I don't know it. Anyway, it's being honest. No, she's being honest. Should we go? This individual here is being honest, kind of, in that they don't give a crap. The offense is saying it at all in any circumstance, no matter what. You are not allowed. You're a white guy. You're not allowed. That's the actual truth. The truth is you are not allowed to speak heresy outside of the church. That's the truth. That's what this actually is. You in particular, somebody we consider evil, is not allowed to speak heresy outside of our church, and you better stop it. That's what they're really saying.
Stand for why I'm doing this. If you said you came down to understand why am I doing this? No, but this.
And this is the biggest example, which he's going to make too. I don't know. I didn't see the end yet. These people act like they're being empathetic, but they fail to show empathy for the person they're talking to. And that, I think, really shows who they really are. The fact that they're not willing to show empathy to the person they're talking to. Judge people by their fruits, man, not by their words. And these people will not show you empathy when they're talking to you. So that means, you don't have to show them empathy unless that's up to you. It's up to you, but understand they are not showing you empathy, and they've not shown any real empathy if that's the case. But do try and show them empathy, I think. Anyway, walk the higher road, Anyway, let's finish it.
This is you've made a claim. You've made a claim. Right. This is what?
Maybe you'll watch the video and have some.
What do you think the result of people watching this video will going to be?
What's your intent? What is the impact it's having?
That's all we're asking.
There you go. She asked, what is your intent? What is the impact? But they don't really care about the intent. They specifically say that many times. But that's where that all came from. It came from the microaggression thing. Isn't that crazy? It's just like, it's part of their thought process now and so ingrained that they don't even know that they're doing it, right? Like, they're not explaining it. It's just intuitions. They've trained it to the level of intuition. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. It's amazing what the schools have done to people. It's amazing. Like, I'm not kidding around. It's in a horrible way. It's a work of art, right? Not a work of art. No. Art has the human condition. It's a work of, it's a craft It's a well-crafted machine. But, you know, glad people like that are going out there and doing it, man. Anyways, we'll see you soon with another video. That's it for this one. Let the music play, I suppose. That's it for this one. Thank you, guys. I'll have more videos, hopefully this week than normal. See you guys soon. Also, come by the stream if you like, too. It's fun.